Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Anderson. I'm the Director of Education here at Domus Academy. Welcome to everyone for joining us online. The talk this evening is part of our Disrupting Patterns series, multidisciplinary, cross-cultural, and connected lectures with panels, talks, and conversations that touch on various disciplinary areas: architecture, design, fashion, innovation, and technology, emphasizing and investigating approaches, processes, and contemporary and future themes, looking at the past, investigating the present, preparing next strategies of engagement. The lecture series is intended to be a container for discussion of ideas, approaches, and conditions around the space of design. Each invited guest has in some way impacted and contributes through their work to this discourse, sometimes within their discipline and many times in connected, far-reaching spheres. The contribution of our guests may be through professional practice, writing, and/or teaching. This evening, we're very pleased to welcome Alessia Glaviano, head of Global PhotoVogue and Director of the PhotoVogue Festival. Ms. Glaviano is a leading figure in the panorama of international photographic criticism. In 2011, she launched PhotoVogue, the innovative platform on which users can share their photographs, relying on curatorial supervision that champions emerging and establishing talents. In her 20+ years with Condé Nast, in addition to launching and overseeing PhotoVogue, Ms. Glaviano has also driven selected special projects, curated exhibitions in prestigious museums and institutions with some of the most important artists of our time, marking the first conscious photographic fashion festival dedicated to the shared ground between ethics and aesthetics. In 2016, Ms. Glaviano directed in Milan the first edition of PhotoVogue Festival. I extend a warm welcome to Alessia Glaviano. She will be in conversation this evening with Caterina Lunghi, a journalist, a teacher, and longtime collaborator with Domus Academy. Welcome.
Welcome, Alessia. Can you see the presentation? Thank you, Mark. Alessia, I'm very happy to talk with you because we have been knowing each other for a long time, and finally we managed to get you. And I remember maybe it was 10 years ago when I was following a talk that you gave during the Fashion Film Festival in Milano.
Oh, yes.
You were in conversation with the Hunger magazine.
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
I do remember, and I was really impressed by your culture, not only on photography and fashion, but I do remember you talking about music, London, pop culture.
Yeah.
So,
I'm always, I've always been interested in all kind of cultures, pop and high culture. So yes, I think that there are always interesting connections between all the different worlds.
So I'm eager to learn from you today. And as Mark said, you are the founder 11 years ago of the PhotoVogue that also turned into a physical space in events in Milano.
Yeah, it became also a festival in 2016. Yes, because 11 years ago, I thought, when we launched Vogue Italia online, I wanted to do something specific for photography. And at the time, there were already platforms like Flickr and things like that. But, I thought there isn't a platform that it's curated. And a friend of mine, Fred Ricin, that I suggest all the students to read these books because it's incredible. He always says, we need curators for the web. We need curators because there's so much out there, but who's going to tell us what's worth it and what's not? There isn't like a front page on the web that tells you. So the problem is if you just want to read about cats, you can just read about cats. You're not going to know that there's going to be there was an earthquake, I don't know, in Sicily. So following, I have the same feeling about the ubiquity and the amount of images that there are online. I wanted to create something that was curated by editors. And so I started PhotoVogue. I couldn't expect that it would become what it is today. And I'm very glad that Christian Mack, which is head of content operations for Vogue US, starting for Vogue US, and now that we're global for the entire world, she loves the project. And so this year, PhotoVogue became a global platform, which means that sits on Vogue.com, and it's going to be also on every Vogue. And we'll soon open up. We have a new platform, and we will soon open up to multimedia, videos, and 3D art, everything. Keeping in mind that it's not just for fashion photography, and it's open to all genre of photography. And with what I always worked on, it's to be able to give possibilities and opportunities to people from all around the world, and especially from underrepresented communities. So this is what I've been doing with my work all these years.
These are just a few screenshots, literally screenshots from the Instagram of PhotoVogue or your own Instagram, and we can see the variety of sensibility, right, of images and different cultures and creativity.
Yes, you have to think that we have at the moment more than 300,000 photographers in PhotoVogue, and they are from everywhere in the world, everywhere, really. So this is incredible. It's a very rich look into what the different cultures are, what the different issues are all around the world, and I think it's amazing.
Alessia, how do you manage the curation? Let's say, how do you select?
So there are two different things that happens with PhotoVogue. One is the single images submission. PhotoVogue is open every Monday, 12 hours each Monday. In these 12 hours, we receive more than 15,000 images. And then this is a part of the curation. So I go through all the 15,000 images and I select the ones that are approved. I also select the ones that will go into the best of section. And then I select the pick of the day, which is the one that I feature also on our Instagram. And then there are the open calls, which is a bit different because people can submit entire projects. It's maybe more complete because there is while they submit the project, they also submit a description of the project, their biography. And at the moment, we just finished our first global open call and our first local open call for Italy. And it's been very successful. We received over 3,000 submissions from everywhere, really everywhere. And the level of talent is incredible. We will publish the results soon. And many artists will be exhibited at the next edition of the festival. We can talk about it later.
And Alessia, no age, no limits of age, or
no.
You can be a professional, or you can.
Well, you must be 18. That's the only thing. You can be an amateur. You can be a professional photographer. This doesn't.
So okay.
Yeah.
And I love following your own Instagram, and every morning and every evening you put today pick of the day and good morning and good night.
Yes, this is like something that I started really back when I started having Instagram, I think, and it was my way to curate what is out there, a bit with PhotoVogue, but also with what I feel it's important to know if you are, not only if you want to be a photographer or work in the fashion industry, but in general for culture, So usually for the good nights, most of the time I feature photographers that are known. And
like Steven Meisel.
yeah, like Meisel, and images that sometimes can be thought of as iconic because they've been important tassels in the history of fashion photography.
And Alessia, this is a question really on the spur of the moment. We all live with our smartphone in our hand, and we are, let's say, overwhelmed by images. So how, even looking at PhotoVogue or your own Instagram account, how can we learn how to pay attention to an image in the middle of many images?
Well, this is an interesting question, but it's also something that puts the responsibility on the viewer. I mean, I think, yes, we are overwhelmed every day by images, but at the same time, it is us. We should be the ones who maybe, we see an image and maybe we read the caption and maybe we want to know more about it. And today there's the internet, which is incredible. So maybe why don't you then Google the name of the photographer, see what is done. I think we should pay more attention. There are studies that show how the attention span has decreased radically in the last years. And so it is not like an easy thing to do, to be able to pay attention, but it's a challenge and we should be doing this. It's very important.
When you were talking about how PhotoVogue works in terms of, let's say, the selection. So when you look at the images that you receive, which one is the one that
well, I have a very trained eye. I see thousands of images every day, so I think I'm able to spot kind of immediately if there is something good there or not, and this comes with years of studying, of working, it's not something that you have like that overnight. I mean, I think the taste and the sensibility, it's something that you are born with, but then you can train on it. And yes, it's a lot of work, but I think it's worth it.
And Alessia, you mentioned, what did you study? I'm curious. You study?
I never stopped studying. I mean, I did different studies because I worked. I was going to Bocconi, and I have a degree in mathematics actually that I adore. Yes, I did my thesis on game theories, which is like very high level of mathematics. But at the same time, I always had I was drawn to the arts and to photography. And so I studied on my own, and I studied everything, especially the theoretical side and the theoretical thinking behind photography, like Roland Barthes, Susan Sontag, Berger. I have read all of their books. McLuhan, which is something that I really suggest to the students here. It's not just it's about seeing, it's about researching. When I was young, we didn't have internet. I used to go to libraries.
I put them a couple of suggestions at the end.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about that later when we go into the...
Okay. So I go back.
So, I used to spend hours and days in book stores or libraries, going through books, looking at things. And I think maybe today, because it's easier, people tend not to do it. But I suggest everyone who wants to have a job in this field, it's so important to know what you're doing. It's so important to know the history and to know, because, for instance, I see a lot of students that sometimes they make mood boards out of Pinterest. They don't even know whose pictures they're taking, why, when they were taken, and this is not correct. Even because like this, sometimes you end up plagiarizing stories instead of doing your new thing, So my suggestion would be always to not do mood boards like that, If you like an image, discover who made it, why, what was it, what was the context, yeah, you're showing now an image that my father made.
Yeah, I was telling, you studied mathematics, but photography is the way you grew up.
Yeah, exactly. No, not only my father, but all my family, they're artists, you know, painters, blah, blah, blah. So I grew up surrounded by art, and I think that this actually was very helpful in my case, even because right after my university, I moved to New York, where I lived many years, and I worked in this in the Pier 59 studios, where all the photographers were working, from Steven Meisel to Stephen Klein. Everything was happening there, so I was able to assist these people and to.
And also, Alessia, I read a couple of interviews where you were saying that when you were living in New York, you were dreaming about working for Vogue, and every month you were buying.
Yes, because I loved Steven Meisel so much. I think that when I was in New York, which was the 90s and early 2000s, it was the best period of the stories by Steven Meisel in Vogue Italia. I think it was his golden time, you know, the 90s. So I loved Steven Meisel because I think he's the best fashion photographer that ever existed. Maybe with Richard Avedon, but I would put them on the same level, because the way, you know, Meisel is able to actually, you know, take inspirations from many things, like this image that it's here. It was inspired by a Marina Abramovic performance. So, you know, he would take inspirations from art, from news, from everything, movies, artists, and he would actually do it better, which is incredible, because usually, so it's never a copy, it's more like homages and taking references and bring everything to the next level, because the cast was perfect, the fashion was perfect. And why, again, if you're here and you want to do this job or jobs related to fashion, what I always say, because my interest is not only in fashion photography, but also documentary, reportage, all kinds of art. And I think fashion photography is the most difficult one, because it's not just about how good you are in photography, but you have to think of yourself as a director. The team is fundamental, because you can be a great photographer, but if you don't know anything about styling, about hair and makeup, about posing, about this, about that, then your pictures are not going to be good. So why is Meisel that good? Because he could do all of the roles in the team, and he's really able to direct people, and he knows exactly what he wants. So I think, you know, teamwork is fundamental for fashion, and you have to be able to judge the work of others. Yeah, so Steven Meisel for me is the absolutely the.
Yeah, I think when I asked you, Alessia, which are your favorite photographs, you said it's quite impossible to say, but then you helped me with this, let's say, kind of selection, right? That is not.
Yeah, you know, for me it's impossible, because again, you know, I have such a strong passion for photography, that there are so many artists that have influenced me and that played a big role in my developing as an editor and as a curator. You know, there are fashion artists, there are documentary photographers, like right after my dad's picture, there's one by James Nachtwey, which is one of the most important reporters of our times. And well, this is like, I choose this image just because I think it really gives you an idea of how incredible his skills are, even in situations like wars, skills of composing, of lighting, of framing the subject. This is, of course, a reference to the Christus painting and Mantegna. So I think it's incredible. And again, you know, I don't like labels. I never liked the idea of just, you know, photography is a language. It's used to speak about so many different things. Now it also became a way to conversate, the way we choose, the way we take notes with images, the way we speak with images, with our chats and things. So I think there are many things that we can say with photography, and I like all of them. This other image was important because it shows exactly what I'm saying now. I remember I loved Franca Sozzani. We had a great relationship. I miss her every day. She's been an incredible mentor and friend for me. And I remember when I started PhotoVogue, we had different ideas with Franca. She was very progressive, but to a certain limit, because for her, beauty, harmony were key. And I wanted to change that a little bit. So I remember we had a huge fight on this image because I chose it as peak of the day in PhotoVogue. And I remember she called me up that morning. She said, "What are you doing? You're putting like images of war." I mean, this was taken, I think, in Afghanistan by this photographer. And we can't put images of war. And I said, why not? I mean, you know, Vogue is a brand, and photography is open to everything. So you know, and I sticked with my choice. I didn't, and so this was important to show exactly the commitment that I had towards being very inclusive. Well, that's Nan Golding, another incredible artist. I mean, for all of you, like Nan Golding, for instance, if you don't know who she is, you should Google her. You should see why she's so important. You know, she's the one who actually started what it's called the snapshot aesthetics that then, you know, ended up, she started with, she was taking art images, but her art images, and again, maybe she started even the concept of community, of having a community of peers that think like you, that have your own life. And she did all these incredible diaristic images of her friends, you know, most of them died of AIDS or, and
as I remember, maybe 5 years ago, there was an exhibition in Triennale.
Yes, there was. Actually, yeah, the Ballad of Sexual Dependence, which is made of more than 700 slideshows with music. Yes.
And I remember that I wanted to go, and maybe I went a couple of times, but I was, to me, it was disturbing.
Well, you know, but that's the intent, and that's the intent. I think what is great about Nan is how authentic this is for her. She's not a voyeur. She's not someone who was an outsider looking into a community of people, of freaks, you know? She was one of them. And, you know, now it seems like, yeah, now you see a lot of images like this, but you have to think that this was groundbreaking in the 80s, you know? And then she's been referred to when I think she was the one who then opened the way for people like Terry Richardson or people like Corinne Day, you know, there's so many that Jürgen Teller, they all took from Nan Golding. So yeah, she's very important in the history of photography, as it is Philip Lorca di Corcia. This again, Philip Lorca is not a fashion photographer. Is an art photographer, and is incredible at staging his images and making it like movies, like frames of a movie. And the collaboration that he had with W magazine, which went on for many years, it's incredible. And he produced so many incredible fashion stories for W. So again, you know, it's an artist who also does fashion photography, but I don't think you can separate these two things. Think of Irving Penn or Richard Avedon, their images who were done for a fashion magazine. Now they are hanging at MoMA or Guggenheim So, you know, fashion is just one of the things inside an image. And it gives you, it's a mirror of society. It's a mirror of issues, of ideas, of what's going on in a certain era. So
And in particular, I read your comments that were this photo were inspired by your opera sense of loneliness and painting. And,
yes. But again, I think what's the takeaway of Philip Lorca is the cinematic quality of his images. Like Gregory Crewdson. Gregory Crewdson is, now I chose an image which is part of a series, one of his first series that he did, I Love Your Dog. And
I have two, Alessia. Let's hope they are cut.
Well, I have two cats. Usually at this time, they start, you know, crawling around. They want to play. I never have time. So anyway, if they jump,
the best picture is about nature and animals. So
exactly. So this is one of the first series by Gregory, and you know, he's well known for these dioramas that he makes, and for then, you know, he evolved and he started casting movie stars like Julianne Moore, and he did incredible series where it really each frame is like the frame of a movie, and it gives you that suspension that you don't know what happened before or after. I mean, I have to say that I prefer the still image to the moving image because it's more mysterious, in my opinion. And this is really well done. The uncanny. I mean, Gregory works on the concept of the uncanny, which is very interesting. Then this one, I think, shows what we can say it's been a turning point for our Western society, which is 9/11 by Thomas Hopker. And I remember that when 9/11 happened, Thomas didn't want to publish this image because he felt it could be offensive. But again, it's the context. Is like, you don't know what they were saying, these people. But I think it gives you the absurdity of what happened, because we were all like in shock that day. And it was something like out of a movie. So this image, I think it's able to render this kind of paradox, because, you know, maybe it looks like they're at ease and they're like looking like at the movie or something. You know, it's really is an image that it's disturbing. It's really disturbing, and it's able to render the craziness of that day. Yeah. Then we have Ryan McGinley, I see, which is another incredible artist. Again, speaking about community, speaking about freedom, and all of these images that really look like they are snapshots or they are taken naturally, they're actually really staged. So what he does is that maybe he takes a bunch of friends and he goes on a trip with the cameras and everything, and he makes these incredible images. Again, you know, he's been also, he shot also for fashion, and he's been copied by everyone, or at least, you know, referenced by everyone. Then there is an example of, do we also have, well, who's after Kenneth Josephson? Because I would like to talk, oh no, anyway, Kenneth Josephson was an incredible image maker, and he worked a lot into the idea of photography as an object. And you know that Roland Barthes used to say that what tricks us about photography is that it's transparent. So you actually think that what you're seeing is true, right? You don't see the object, the photograph, you see the content of the photograph, okay? So by doing things like this, you actually get a sense of the trickery of photography, of the fact that photography at the end is an object, it's not the object in itself. So, and you know, if you think about it, this is something that Guy Bourdin did, in fashion after Kenneth Josephson, but Guy Bourdain is more famous. So then everyone remembers about the work of Guy Bourdain with the Polaroids and not Kenneth Josephson. Then there's Bruce Davidson. Again, it's the idea of not wanting to put things into labels and differentiate them, because Bruce Davidson was a documentary photographer. So this is a project that he did in Coney Island. It's called Brooklyn Gang. I suggest you go and see it. And it actually looks like a fashion shoot, but it's a documentary story. It's reportage. So you see how, again, things can be very fluid. I can't hear you.
There is a kind of, let's say, even if it was the 60s, they can be still fresh and not timeless, but right. I think the value of a photo is also that you can look at it after years and there is some feelings that are still valid.
Mm-hmm. Well, that goes with every great image.
Yeah,
even if they do look like they are from a certain era.
Yeah, because of the attires, of course, and the haircut.
But this, we've seen it before.
Yeah.
Then we go into the most recent things I've done with PhotoVogue. And, with PhotoVogue, especially with the festival, I started in 2016 to do exhibitions, and the festival is in Milano. It's open to everyone, it's free. It is mainly at Base, which is a location in Tortona. And we do panels, we do exhibitions, and every year we choose a theme for the festival. And I have to say, I'm very proud that, like, for instance, in 2016, I was the first one to speak about female gaze. And then it became something that everyone was talking about. And this is one of the authors that we exhibited in 2016. And because I think it was very interesting what was happening, especially thanks to social media. But then, everything that starts there ends up also influencing the big brands and the fashion magazines. And there were a lot of young female artists who were starting to reverse the gaze, the male gaze, and starting photographing each other, And I think this is one of the most important things that happened to photography in the past years, because in the past, if we think about it, there weren't all these female photographers, first of all, because it was a world dominated by white males. And the ones that were there, they were doing one kind of photography, but they weren't really, maybe, Bettina Reims was incredible because she started with chambre clothes in the 80s to take like sexy pictures of other women, and that was very interesting, because what happens when it's a woman behind the camera? Is it still objectifying another woman? Is it reversing the gaze? So, there is an incredibly interesting thinking behind all this. And this was in 2016. Then
which will be the theme of the next festival?
Yeah, okay. So the next festival again will be in November from the 17th till the 20th. You're all invited, and you don't need to be invited. And this year the theme is what would Sontag say? We were saying, if you're not familiar with Susan Sontag, I suggest that you read about her. For instance,
I go to the book.
Yeah, okay. So we have, there are two books that are especially dear to me. One is on photography, and the other one is regarding the pain of others. I will get there, but an article that fashion lovers should be reading, an essay by Susan Sontag, is Notes on Camp. that I really suggest to everyone. Susan has been one of the most incredible thinkers of our era. And she was also, her fiancé, I don't think they got married, was Annie Leibovitz. So there is also a story there. And she wrote a seminal book in the 70s on photography, where she says about many different things. But the thing that interested me, she already was talking in the 60s and 70s about how we are bombarded by images, and what does this being bombarded by images mean? How does this overexposure to images shapes our ability to feel when we look at them, you know? Then before dying in 2003, she released another seminal book, which is Regarding the Pain of Others, where, because, you know, in the one in non-photography, she was saying, maybe, you know, we should rethink the idea of showing images of suffering or showing images of pain, because what can we do about it? And isn't it possible that maybe people get used to this suffering and they're not going to do anything anymore because they just see too much and they're not going to react to it. And then with Regarding the Pain of Others, she said, okay, it's true that maybe, you know, we get used to the pain of others. Nonetheless, it is very important that we keep publishing these images and we keep denouncing the things that are happening. So for this edition of the festival, I'm gonna publish, I started with my article on the PhotoVogue platform on this concept. And I have a few essays by various intellectuals, philosophers, professors on the theme of Sontag, because what I noticed is that there is a paradox today. On one side, the overexposure, the effect of the overexposure of images, when we think of the pain of others, can have a very negative effect because it normalizes the content that we're looking at. But this normalizing, it's actually a very positive effect when we talk about the overexposures of images of diversity. So it's very interesting because, first of all, there is no going back. I mean, we all use social media, that's the world we live in, and what do we do? So we always have to be very aware of this, you know, on that we are using also in a positive way, the overexposure. Like what I've done with my entire career has been the idea that if you put something out there, sooner or later, maybe people are not going to see it as someone so different from us. Okay, like for instance, the work I've been doing on disability, but also on having, you know, different communities being able to tell their own stories. And at the same time, the responsibility of what we see goes to the viewer, because it's the viewer who should make sense of what they see. You know, I don't think it is something that we should accept, that we look at images of war and we don't care anymore. Think of like Alan Kurdi, you know, the image of the drowned kid when they were trying to emigrate, and you know, that image sparked a lot of conversations. But then today, people still die every day in the Mediterranean and no one does anything, which is what kind of humans are we, you know? So we're going to explore this theme, and I hope it's going to be interesting. It is for me.
Thank you. I have on photography, but I want to buy Regarding the Pain of Others.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You're going to love it.
We have 3 more photos from your, let's say, selection. Romina.
Yeah, so Romina, it's a dear friend. She's an Argentinian photographer, and I think this work, she did more than 60 different Venuses with different shapes of bodies, different skin colors, and I think it embodies what I was saying about the commitment that we have about, you know, showing differences and making it maybe less like otherness and more like normal diversity. And then the one after this, it's maybe one of the works I'm most proud of, because maybe many of you have seen this image because it became viral. It's a project I did for Gucci Beauty with a photographer from PhotoVogue, David PDI, which is also has a disability. And he took this image of Ellie, which is now a superstar, and she has Down syndrome. And I am so happy because I think that the fact that this image circulated so much, and then people started hiring Ellie and started, you know, showing people with disabilities in a fresh, new way, not always like poor thing or like, oh, she's an hero. No, like, you know, she's beautiful like that, like you can be or I can be. And so this is very important to me.
I remember maybe the news of involving Ellie came out maybe in January, February, was something like that, because with students we were commenting on that.
Yeah, that's good. And then, yeah, this is again some interpreters of what I was saying before. It's the female gaze, and they're all incredible artists coming from all different backgrounds and working on themes that I care a lot about, which is femininity and disability and empowering people of color. Yeah.
Then we have the book suggestion, and last but not least, you, I guess, in Milano with the.
I was here with Ibrahim Kamara, which is a dear friend and a genius.
And Ibrahim just appointed at the head of design at Off-White.
Exactly, and also he does, you know, so he's a great friend, but he's also a very humble, incredible human being with such a strong vision. And that gives you the idea. I think, you know, if you want to do this job, your aim should not be to be successful. Your aim should be you should work hard because you love what you do, you know, because you get inspired by what you do. Otherwise, you're never going to get anywhere because it's so much hard work, you know. I work constantly. And then there is Malik Body, which is a model and a photographer. And then there is the assistant of Brahim. Yeah, and we always have
Alessia, where are you, that we can give you also suggestion of good places in Milano?
It's an Italian place in, gosh, I will tell you because I forgot the name, so I'm bad at this thing. Yeah.
No problem.
Maybe we can open to the questions of the students.
Of course. Alessia, in the meantime, thank you very much professionally and personally, because also I remember a chat with you with Stephen Shore from Los Angeles a couple of years ago. Then I didn't know anything about him. I bought the book. So you really helped me to.
Oh, thank you. That's nice to say. Thank you. Thank you very much for this.
Alessia.
And thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for coming, and I give you the word to my colleagues.
Yes, thank you, Caterina.
Thank you. I think there is Gaia. Ciao, Gaia.
Hi, hello.
But hello. Am I going to see someone or not?
Hi, Alessia. Can you hear me?
Ah, yes. Hey,
yes. Hi.
Hi.
Yes. Alessia, thank you very much for being with us. It has been really interesting. Probably I can start with one question, and then I leave the word to our students if they have any. I'm very curious because, yes, you were saying that, we have social media and this is the world we live in. So I am fascinated about that impact now of technology, because we are seeing it a lot in fashion with now the metaverse and NFT, all this technology, you know. And so I just want to have your opinion about how technology are impacting this sector, when it comes to photography. And it's not only the fact that we have access, to many of them, to many information, but as well it is changing, our way to
well,
work as well.
This is not a new thing. This is not a new
thing.
It is not. If you think about it, photography changed with the changes that happen in technology. You have to think that the first war was photographed was the Crimea War, and to take photographs, they went with this like huge caravan, and it was really complicated. You couldn't render movement, you couldn't, so and then they invented the little camera, the 35 millimeters, so you started to see people on the streets in photography. And so if you think about it, this goes da 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 da. And I think this was McLuhan who said that we do not end with our bodies, we end where the technology takes us. Think about a phone call or the Zoom call we're doing. We're all here. I mean, I believe that it's very interesting and freeing, this idea that technology can take us to new places. At the same time, and I think this is something we all experienced with COVID and being indoor and being on Zoom from day to night, is that when we are experiencing something not only through a screen, but with all the senses, so with the body, with hearing, with smelling, then I think that those memories stays more in us. They produce more, they have a stronger impact.
A longer effect, no?
So I don't think that, I think that both things are complementary and they should be together. And the technology is amazing. What's happening for fashion, the metaverse and NFTs. I love all of it.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question. We have a question from Yamila Saad.
But we're not going to see the students.
Yeah, this is the written one. I don't know then if we can have someone, because I see an hand that has been raised. So probably this is.
I would love to see the faces of the students.
I don't know, Yamila, you wrote the question. Do you want to show your face?
Yes, Yamila, show your face.
Hi.
Hi, Yamila.
Sorry, I wasn't prepared to show my face. I'm really sorry. I'm not like properly dressed to show my face.
At least I hear your voice. But look,
okay, I'm sorry. So, anyway. Hi, Alessia. It's a pleasure to hear from you, and I've been enjoying to hear your work with PhotoVogue, and it's super fascinating. I am in the Masters for Fashion Design program at Domus, and my question was, how do you see, or how is like the preparation between photo editorials and fashion designs, like when it comes to concept, when it comes to mood boards, inspirations? Do you see it working the same way?
Yes, of course. I mean, everyone has their own way to work, but you know how it is. There are the fashion shows, and then, after the fashion shows, you start preparing the themes, you start preparing the trends of the season. And then, photographers or stylists, they can come up with concepts that are, of course, related also to what's going on fashion. They can be, reminded by that, or maybe they see a trend that it's developing, and so they produce ideas. So yes, they're very connected.
Thank you so much. And do you know, so after like seeing these references from these photographers, and I will do research on Susan Sontag and all of the literature that you shared with us, but as a fashion designer, what advice would you give for like aspiring designers or aspiring people in this like industry? Like how, I don't know if there's any advice that you want to
of course
give.
There are, it's a lot of hard work, and especially if you want to be a designer, I know that there's a lot of costs involved to produce things, and you know, I think we have a lot of incredible contests that you can enter. You should try to have as many portfolio reviews as possible. You should reach out to have portfolio reviews by experts and try to participate in all the contests that there are, you know.
Wonderful, thank you so much.
And also find, and this goes for every creative, you have to find your own voice, you know. Do not think that you have to copy someone else because that's the trend of what's going on, you know, because that is not going to take you anywhere. Personally, I first got into arts by taking Rebecca.
Thank you.
Helped me to realize things.
Yes. Rebecca, do you want to show yourself or at least talk with Alessia to present your question?
How, Rebecca? May I know?
Hi, Rebecca. No? Okay, so maybe we can read the question.
Yes,
here he is. Hi, Rebecca.
Ciao, Rebecca.
Ok, non so come... Buongiorno.
Hi, hello, Rebecca.
È stato un piacere, cioè un piacere, mi hanno preso alla sprovvista così, ok. Piacere, Rebecca.
Ciao Rebecca, che bella Rebecca.
Grazie. Non me l'aspettavo questa cosa della fotocamera. E intanto è un piacere, è un immenso piacere conoscerla. E niente, allora la mia domanda era un po' articolata, un po' lunga, però comunque di base io volevo chiedere una cosa.
Rebecca, sorry to interrupt you. Can you switch to English, please? Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Yeah. My question was, what do you think about this sort of dehumanization of photography? Because I feel that in these years, even I don't know, I'm talking about like e-commerce or the online shops and all the pictures we see on Instagram, on Facebook, on every social media. I think that like you were saying before, looking at all of a bunch of pictures every day, I think that we alienated from the emotions that the photography should spread out, should share. So I don't know,
well,
what do you feel?
No, I understand what you're saying, but it depends what you look at, you know. Of course, you're saying e-commerce and things like that, sure, you know, they have a different purpose, but
yeah, of course, I was wrong saying e-commerce.
No,
I was
instead,
saying
I don't think that we are dehumanizing, because I think that never in the history of photography there has been so much work that it's about empowering people. Never. So of course, you know, if you look at e-commerce or ebooks, or I get your point, but then again, it's your responsibility to see what are you looking at, you know.
Of course,
and,
but what
yeah,
is people looking at right now? Maybe even that.
Sorry?
Maybe another thing to see, it's what is people looking at right now, because maybe you can propose like another perspective. I don't know, let's take shades. Okay, you go just walk around the city and you picture all the shades, and then you print a book where you share your vision of the city. Okay, but what is people looking at? Are the people looking at the path you did and the different places, and because they're curious about where you went, or are they looking at the shade and what you wanted to share?
Well, that depends on, again, you know, you cannot generalize things like that, because all of us, we look at things through our background, through what we are interested in. For example, I remember I always loved fashion magazine. And when I was going through fashion magazine, I'm talking about Vogue, of course, I would look at the pictures. I wouldn't look at the looks of the fashion looks. I would look at the entirety of the picture, and which is different, like from some people who are so interested in fashion that all they see is what their models are wearing.
Okay. So not
see,
the shade, not the light, and
yeah,
okay,
it depends. You know, it depends on who's watching what, and also, you know, again, stay away from big general, you know, saying we all do this or we all do that. For sure, there is a problem in getting people's attention today. This doesn't mean that we have to trivialize what we're talking about, or this is like a battle that I do every day. You know, I decided to be an intellectual in a world where this is not something that it's really, you know,
evaluated.
So maybe I'm not the right person to talk about this, because I am a believer in trying to take always the conversation to another level, you know.
Okay, very interesting.
So you have to believe in what you do and try to insert your values. Don't think about what people want to see. Think about what you want to show.
Actually, I went, like, lots of times I was struggling because I'm not a professional photographer at all, but I've always loved photography. So it's my medium of communication. Well, I'm struggling every day of my life because I feel that I feel like that the picture doesn't come out as I wanted. And then, like, some months ago, I started like thinking about it, and one of my friends told me, like, in a perfect moment, she told me, you know, that the beauty lies on the eyes of the person that is seeing the object. And that sentence in that moment made perfect sense, and I never realized what was the meaning of this sentence until that moment. And in that moment I was like, okay, so should I invent like a technology that brings my eyes to let people see what I'm seeing? And then I was like, okay, but there's like the photography and the camera, no? But actually, it doesn't give me, like, non mi appaga, it doesn't, non so.
Well, keep
keep
trying, but you have to think of what you want to say. You don't have to do it for the others. You have to do it.
No, I'm doing it for myself, of course.
Yeah.
But it's struggling, you know, because I want to show even to myself for my memories something, but then it doesn't come out as I wanted. Like, I think it's an emotional transfer that is missing in the camera, in the picture.
Maybe
like,
you should study more about photography, because the more you know, the more you're going to be able to obtain what you have in your mind's eye. You know what I mean? Because you will master the technology that you need to get there. So many photographers today, they don't know anything about lighting. They don't know anything about, you know, and that is fundamental if you want to render an emotion.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. So you think, you're telling me that this emotion that is missing in the picture is from the light and all the composing of the set.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe, yes.
Okay.
I would try, you know, I would try that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alessia.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
I hope to see you all at the festival. Remember, November 17th to the 20th at Base, okay?
Save the date.